on Facebook, and webinar is now streaming live on Zoom. I know what you're thinking to yourself. He's got two horizontal lines, vertical lines either side of him, and it's a little bit dark, and that's why we're using technology to be able to do conferences wherever you are, whenever you want, 24/7. Matthew Everingham from Richard Matthews, one of the fastest growing real estate businesses in Australasia. I've seen it happen with my own eyes. He was a real estate agent at an office called Nick Bagettis in Burwood, and since then, they've built an incredible real estate company. How you going, Matty?
Yeah, good, Tom. Thank you. And yes, you're right. Technology can bring you to wherever you need to be, including an airport car park. So it absolutely works. And hopefully everyone can see and hear me just fine.
So, Matty, we've got half an hour today. And by the way, I'm letting you know this is Tech Tuesday. That's right. Once a month, we come together to talk all things tech, but not like scientists, but actual real estate people that using tech, not for bleeding edge, but for cutting edge. We're all about using tech that is there to complement you, not to substitute you. And I know, Matty, you spoke at the REB conference not long ago. They could have had anyone speak there, but they got you and your business partner to speak because you guys are one of the real forward thinkers of using tech, but not just paying for the subscription, but also using it, but at the same time, not forgetting that real estate is still a contact sport and has a lot to do with conversations. What's your view on technology versus talking to people and all of that sort of stuff?
Yeah, look, I think technology is critical to what we do. I mean, you're right. Richard and I spoke at that conference, and I think one of the things we really pointed out to people was that we use technology, but we absolutely still very much on the phone, direct communication. I think a lot of agents think that technology means that they can eliminate the work that they would otherwise have to do, avoid seeing people or avoid being able to pick up the phone and have a chat. It doesn't. It can help you really teach you who you may need to call at that point in time, but you've got to still use that personal touch. So for us, high tech, high touch, that's kind of the philosophy we take in the business. And I think it's through COVID, we learned so many new things, all of us here. But one of the things we learned we couldn't substitute was that we still have to get on the phone and we still have to make sure that we talk to people, but the technology tips us on when, how, and often what their behaviors are like. So a bit of a cheat sheet, I suppose, if you like.
And listen, Matty, I was talking to an agent the other day and he was having an argument on the phone. Get ready for this. He was having an argument on the phone, young guy, would have been in his mid-20s. And at the end of it, I said, do you want to pick this up later? I can tell he did. Nah. He goes, no, it's all good. He goes, it's my mum. I go, mate, you shouldn't fight with your mum like that. He goes, oh, she's over the top. I go, what's the problem? She, too pushy. He goes, no, I need to move out of home. I said, all right. I go, okay, well, I hope, sure, no problems. And then he goes, she just carries on. I go, what was that about? Get ready for this. His grandfather died, right? Which is his mum's dad. And what he and they lived in Sydney. And what he did, Matty, is he just sent a text to his grandmother. Oh, sorry, I heard Pop died, right? And his mother had flipped. You know what I mean? There's an example of what we talk about. There's a time to text and there's a time to actually talk. Of course. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I mean, texting is critical. I mean, we use it well. I mean, one of the big things that we've done, for example, just a small thing, but a lot of agents probably adopted this now, is using WhatsApp, creating messages, not just with our vendors, with our buyers once they purchase, just streamlining what we're doing for certain things. But, for example, technology wise, that's where it could really come in handy for basic information, not to give critical information and offers and the like. I think that still requires getting on the phone and having a personalized conversation. And I think, Tom, that's an interesting story, probably all too real out there. But the truth is, I reckon a lot of agents use it far too much, and they get away from the hard conversation by, writing a message. And the problem, and email's the same, it comes across as a particular way, and it may not be the tone that you want it to, but if you're texting, they could read it in a certain manner and you could blow your relationship with that client. Same with email. So I think using tech to your advantage, 100% what we do at Richard Matthews, but making sure that we still remain in contact with important information is critical for any agent.
So, Matty, you're one of the principals and partners in that business. You're actually the founding partner that set it up with your other business partner, with Richard. But you do list and sell. I mean, and you do run an EBU that you've got a team there. So a lot of the conversation we're going to have today is going to be, the audience that listens to this are real estate agents that want to list and sell more property. They want to find out if there's any tech hacks that they can use to help them. We're all about cutting edge and not bleeding edge. You are a Realtair client. You are a believer in Realtair, and of particular interest, you told me off air, is pitch has been amazing for you. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, look, I think the pitch product through Realtair has been fantastic for our business. And while I'm not, of that generation where tech comes easily, like it's really easy to learn and pick up quickly, So when I first started in real estate, there was none of this sort of stuff. So I've seen the other side of it, and I've certainly seen the benefit now of using technology to assist us, and pitch is one of those things. So, I mean, obviously sending out information, it's a great way to either text a proposal or email. Of course, it looks sharp. It's easy for a client to open. People want speed, right? They don't want you to have to deliver the proposal like we did in, 1998 by hand in an envelope. You save a ton of time and it looks sharp. Yeah. I mean, even though all agents could be using Realtair and offer the same thing, it's going to have your brand on it and everything's going to be, branded to you. The big benefit, though, I reckon, and our team really tells me that this is critical for their success, is that when they've got pitch happening, let's say you appraised a property 6, 12, 18 months ago, whatever it may have been, and you're following up that client, but all of a sudden, randomly, in between your follow-ups, you get an email alert that's saying, number 10 Smith Street in Strathfield has opened up that appraisal link that you had sent them. Anytime they go back into that link, you get alerted. Doesn't matter if it's 10 times in a day, you get alerted. So I reckon the biggest benefit of the pitch is that what people are doing is they're obviously interacting with it for a reason. Now, they might be getting ready to make a decision. They might be going back over information. And if you're good at what you do, a phone call off the back of that to touch base that's relevant to that client is going to be absolutely critical in you being at the forefront of their mind right at that right time. So I think that's a massive thing.
So timing, people underestimate the power of timing, because you call people when the timing's not there, and they call you a pushy, commission breath agent, right?
It's true.
You call people when it's in their mind. Now is my decision-making thing, right? This is a time that they want to speak to you. So yes, it's a little bit like, I don't know, you're not spying on them, but you're getting a cue. This is a time that they're thinking commission. This is a time they're thinking marketing, because it actually goes as deep as telling you what page they're looking at, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It'll alert you to what they're doing. And like, if they keep opening it, they're doing something. I mean, they're not opening it, unfortunately, agents think they're opening it to look at the photos of them. I promise you, they're probably not. We're not all that pretty, and we're probably not all that interesting when they don't need us. But when they are going to make a decision, or they're in conversation about the property, that's an awesome tool. Like, I had one this morning and I reached out to that client. Now, I've already spoken to them, and some people might say, yeah, but if you're doing your job right, you're going to follow them up, right? Of course you are. But it might be a long-term thing. And all of a sudden, plans change. Like, you would have seen it, Tom, and I know that I see it all the time. Somebody had told me 3 months ago that they're not really doing anything now. All of a sudden, for whatever reason, their motivation changes. They open that link and it's just gold to be able to reach out to them, because I bet your competitors have probably got them on some sort of a schedule once every 3 months or whatever it might be. You get a hold of them at the right time, and that almost is going to guarantee you the listing.
I love that. Can I ask, Matty, so you use that when you're doing listing presentations? Do you or your team at all use pitch as a stay in touch strategy with that price update document that you either text or email out, where you send out and say, these are the surrounding sales for the last quarter? Do you do that at all?
Yeah, look, the team does. I mean, to be honest, it's not something I personally do, and probably part of my strategy is not to get too bogged down in that kind of stuff. And it's not to sound like you're too busy to prospect listings, but everyone does different things, and I have Jane who works in my team, and she will do that stuff. And agents in the team though do use it, and they do find it incredibly effective because it's targeted information, right? And I think the idea of the tech is to be able to get you into the forefront of people who care about a sale that's near them. Like if you live in Haberfield, Tom, if I sent you a property that had just sold out in Windsor, I don't think you're going to care too much, to be honest. But if I send you something in Haberfield, even if you're not doing anything, you're going to see Haberfield on there, and selfishly, you're going to spark your interest. I might have a look at that. And that's the idea of the technology. It's not to do the job for you. It's really just to keep forefront of people's minds and keep you in the mix.
Okay, Susan, in the meantime, in the background, could you please put in the chat box and on Facebook under comments the link for Realtair? Yes, it is a bit of an infomercial, but I've got to tell you, when it works, you're doing the person a favor by telling them about it. And Matty, by the way, when you got number 12 REB top 100. I mean, by the way, everyone, number 11. Sorry, number 11.
Susan is always on point,
always
Tom. She's unbelievable.
Yeah, she's unbelievable. They're sitting there looking in the background. She's like the footy commentator, the statistician that sits there and comes up with the stats, right? That's what Susan's done there. Number 11, right? Extraordinary performance, both as a real estate owner, but also writing that amount of business. Mate, just sidetracking off tech for 1 second. Mate, why do you reckon real estate's got incredible potential? The opportunity is amazing. I mean, you could be earning incredible incomes. You could be earning twice as much as our Prime Minister. Why is it that for the majority of real estate agents, it becomes a day-to-day struggle to make a living? What is it, and why do others excel? I look at, some of the guys in your team, and he's quite incredible. I've just had a mental blank on his first name. He came from Newtown.
You're going to say Vivek Taylor.
Vivek Taylor. Like, I'm looking at that guy, he comes along. What's he writing these days? He must be writing over 1 million.
Oh, well over that. I mean, he's the number 1 agent in our team now, and he's an outstanding character, an outstanding person. And he's a great example of just doing the basics right. I remember Vivek came into my office a few years ago, and I reckon he was on the border of giving it away. It wasn't going easily for him. He was really grinding. He had come out of an assistant role and as an independent agent. He was he was making a living, but he wasn't doing what he should be doing. And he wasn't getting the reward for the hard work he was putting in. But I remember Richard and I saying to him, Viv, just stick it out, but have focus, have a core area or a couple of core areas, which he did. He knuckled down, and now, he was named this year as RAB's top metropolitan sales agent in New South Wales. And testament to him, he's got a great EBU. Jesse and Lucas work in his team, and they complement each other perfectly. And, whether it's him or any of the agents within our team, or my own philosophy, and I think we're all very similar, I think it's discipline. It's doing the basics day after day after day. And sometimes, it's so basic that we don't do it, or we try and complicate it. And what happens is you don't end up doing anything, and therefore you become, as you said, mediocre. You don't write the numbers. I also think I think it's important because we are talking tech, that you use that technology to assist you to be more efficient. So I think it's just time, and we work hard. I work 7 days a week now. I know Vivek and his team do. We're all just about to fly down to Adelaide, or a large portion of our team, and spend the day with Harris Real Estate tomorrow in Adelaide. Best business I've seen in the country. Like, these guys are firstly incredibly welcoming, but the next level in terms of the way they operate. But you know why we're going down there? Not to learn how to make a phone call. We know what we need to do. It's to stay cutting edge. It's to stay ahead. And what I did a year ago or 5 years ago doesn't count it. It doesn't cut it today.
Let me ask you, let me ask you about signing agency agreements. We talked off air about it. You do use it in on not all occasions, but you're using it on some occasions. When do you find that it works best for you, signing on glass?
Oh, look, I mean, the convenience of not having to carry forms and pulling out, you pull out a folder that's got dog-eared forms and it looks old-fashioned and tacky is certainly a big plus for us. I mean, look, where it's a huge advantage. I mean, in the old days, you would have to drive to a client's house. Let's say it's local to your office. It's still a 10-minute trip. You're there for probably half an hour, another 10 minutes back. By the end of it, an hour's gone, right? Whereas now, you send them an email that you've already preformed. You're just copying it, putting in their name and saying, we need X, Y, and Z bit of information, and send it quickly across. In that time, you can make another 10 or 15 calls. So, I mean, the technology there is incredible. I remember as a younger agent, well before docu-signing and all that sort of stuff came into effect, I drove to Port Macquarie once to sign a contract because my boss at the time, very old school, very hard-nosed, said to me, if you lose this deal, in a day, they may not want to wait for the post and then post it back, which could be a 3-4 day turnaround. He said, you're driving there. And I remember driving there, signing the contract and coming back to Sydney. I mean, that in effect is a day gone. Imagine the productivity lost.
100%.
On agreements,
100%.
Agreements, look, you want the agreement signed, right? But if you're a good agent, you probably should almost be at the point where you're just even stepping out of that lounge room and saying, look, I'll leave you with whomever's there. I've got to get on to the next appointment, because it's a half an hour process. I promise you it's painful when you've got the business. And I don't want it to come across the wrong way, but that half an hour, I'm thinking, what could I be doing? Who could I get back to? If I miss the chase on that client for half an hour, am I going to miss that opportunity? And I'm that hungry, and I know my team's the same. It's just, you want to get it to a point where the tech saves you the half an hour.
Matt, it's funny you say that. I want to give you an example when I compare that to medicine. I saw an image. I told you I turned the corner with my health about 6 weeks ago, and I've got to tell you about the appointment with the immunologist. Here's what happens. So I go in and I see the receptionist. She gets me to fill out all this stuff. I then wait and I see this nurse, right? I then finish with the nurse, and then they put me in a room, and in comes a register, like a junior. He sits down.
Yep.
So all this has happened, right? This has taken about an hour. Then the main man comes in. He sits down. He looks at a few bit of information, 10-minute meeting, bang. His value is done. He walks out.
Yep.
The register comes in, takes on over. That's what happens. People learn, specialize, double down on what you're good at. The pilot doesn't serve drink on the planes, and technology can help you fly that plane a lot better. But what you're turning around and saying is that essentially, I think what you're saying is technology, but also what's your highest, best use of time? Is there other people that can be doing certain things?
Yeah, I mean, if let's not kid ourselves. If you've got certain people in your team and you're doing that sort of stuff, I think that's a horrible use of your time. I mean, if I'm not talking to somebody about selling their property or putting together a deal, really the other people within the team are better to do that, because for me, every minute counts. Like, it's just, that's a really good example, the immunologist one. And by the way, well done on the Bay Run, fair effort, personal best in this Sydney heat. Not bad for a, what are you, Tom? You're pushing 30 something?
50. Yeah, mate, I've got to tell you. And it's funny how sometimes when you got no choice, the reason why it happened is I'd misjudged the time for an appointment, right? And then when I looked at it, I thought to myself, there's only one way. Run, Forrest, run.
Good.
Hey, listen,
Fair
listen,
effort.
I want to ask you, Matty, about other forms of tech, and don't get me wrong, this is brought to us by Realtair. Realtair is your one-stop solution for technology. But there are other things that Realtair integrates with, right? But is other things that you're using in tech.
Yeah.
Tell me, what other tech stack have you got in your business?
Yeah, look, I think if you look at our business, right from day one, our central point technology-wise was AgentBox. And, we adopted that. I remember meeting with Eddie Seaton, who is the sort of the CEO of AgentBox and an absolute legend of a guy. And he came to our office. I remember this little office, just Richard and I. We had no furniture at that point in time. We're sitting on folded up chairs and sitting down with him. And he's telling us about this new system, AgentBox, which was really in its infancy at that stage. And he was kind of designing it as well as pitching it. So he was working bloody hard. And he's obviously designed the #1 CRM in the country through hard work. I remember sitting there thinking, this is simple to use, right? Which was our criteria, because we weren't young, and we had to find something that we could actually work with and not complicate it. That's the centerpiece of our business. So everything we do runs through that. We drive our business off that, and things like Realtair, things like Rita, anything we use technology-wise runs off that. All of the stuff we do is only as good as the data we put in there. So if I can implore people to get really good at doing that, because it'll make your life much easier later. You don't realize it. You think, oh, if I'm just running, if I've got 50 clients, I can do it off my phone. It's hard when you get to 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people. How do you manage it? You can't. So we want to be able to use information in a bulk way to be able to get to people that we've dealt with 10 years ago, for argument's sake. And it's paying off for our business today. So AgentBox is a huge one. And Eddie, who has become a friend, said to me, it was designed really to manage your clients. It's that simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Use it for what it's meant for. It's a database to be able to put someone's name, number, address, email in there. And then if you use it really effectively off that basic information, you can get to people. I can email. If I bring up on my AgentBox system now, say Strathfield, which is one of our core markets, I could bring up thousands of people in one hit and market to them in 30 seconds, only because the data is good. And now whether we use AgentBox for that, or we use Realtair, or whether we use Rita, which is another product we use, it just allows us to have scale and capacity. So AgentBox is a big one, and we couldn't run our business without it.
But data isn't. So you said something really interesting, and that is about, like, really that's what CRM systems are electronic filing systems. If you think about it, you remember, Matty? Remember when you were at Burwood, and when I look at my cards, we had 3x5 card systems. All that CRM systems have done is made you have thousands of cards, but they're ordered in a way that means that it's faster for you to retrieve the card, right?
So you know what I do, right? Like on a really basic level, and I know the guys in my team do it too. So if I've got an auction tomorrow in Strathfield, the morning of that auction, all I need to do is filter a search that says everybody who lives in Strathfield. I can send them a text message, hey, and then I can populate their first name into it so it looks personalized. As a local resident, love for you to come along to our auction at midday. We have an on-site cafe that comes. We hope you enjoy it. I hope to see you there with my name. Right. Now, you might think, oh, that seems pretty basic. But when you're sending that out to 3,000 people in one hit off your mobile number, that is incredible scale, right? But you can only do it if you set up that information at the beginning right. So you might think, oh, what a pain in the ass. Every client I've got to spend 5 minutes on. When you have data and you have bulk data and you want to get to people really quickly, but it's got to be relevant, right? Don't prostitute your database. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like Yeah, like what you just said before. If someone's sending me in Haberfield, oh, whippy do, I got a new listing in Doonside. Look at me, right? Well, mate,
that's the truth. And you know what? It's about that, and be really smart about it. Don't piss people off by sending them information that is not relevant to them. I mean, you think about it. How many messages and emails do you get in a day? Make it relevant, and they'll know then that if he's sending me something, it's fair point that I might have half an interest. And even if they don't communicate with you, right? They don't say a word to you, they've still got that message from you, and you're relevant in their mind when the time's right. That's the idea.
Now, Matty, talking about that, and I'm mindful because we got a 4:30 p.m. Sydney time hard finish for you to catch your flight. Texting is part of it. I do receive some text from your business. So somewhere I'm on a database there. You said to me earlier off air, you use a thing called group text. Is that the name of the actual thing?
Yeah, it's an app, and it's a really basic thing. And a lot of people might say, well, you've got Agent Box and you've got Reader. Why would you use that? So what we use it for is highly specific stuff. So let's imagine that we have a buyer that is looking to spend $1 million, and we have, I don't know, let's say we have 50 of them in our system, like me personally. I'll then set them up in a buyer, anything between $1 million to 1.5, and I can send them a message instantly when I list something. So it's quick, bulk text, and it's relevant. The biggest thing, though, is that it populates the message into your sent items. So when you bring up the message and they reply back to you, you actually know what they're talking about. Agent Box doesn't allow you to do that. So I think that's probably a big plus, because when you get a lot of messages back, you're like, shit, I can't remember texting these guys. What was it about? And it could be a few days later. So group text, it's $100 and something a year, unlimited texting.
Right. Okay, that's extraordinary. So to me, the big value is that when you do a bulk text message and you get a response, you're able to track straight away, this is from this person.
Straight away.
And yeah, that's the value. Okay, so I'm getting a very clear picture here of your tech stack here. You know, it's underpinned there. You got your CRM system. You've got Realtair that does its pitch, and also you're signing on glass. You then have got Rita, which is the AI that's giving you your phone calls. You're using group text for specific spot text there,
and WhatsApp
and WhatsApp. So how do you use? Tell me how you're using WhatsApp. How do you use WhatsApp?
So let's say tomorrow we wanted to sell your property, right? And we sign you up, or we're pitching for your business, add you into a WhatsApp group with whomever's relevant. And it allows us to communicate with you specific. And like, I mean, it's a consistent information thing. So if you run an EBU, right, how are you going to keep track of what your assistant might have said, your EA said, the associate agent said? It's all in one place. Word of warning, but don't let that be the tool that you use for all of your communication with that client. It will kill your rapport and relationship with them. They might get the message, but you still need to call for certain stuff. If you've had an inspection, I believe you've got to get on the phone and say, hey, Tom, we've just had 4 groups through. This is the feedback. Because if you write that in a message, it could be misconstrued as being short, brash, or just bad service, I think. Be careful with it.
Okay, beautifully said. So, team, you've been listening to Matthew Everingham. This has been Tech Tuesday presented to you by Realtair. By this stage, you know that I absolutely love and adore what Pete Matthews and his co-founders have done with Realtair, because it allows a real estate agent to actually run an ecosystem using tech. Yes, you are probably going to need some other tech products because Realtair is not a CRM system, right? And we've been talking to Matthew Everingham, who is an outstanding agent. The numbers don't lie. REB number 11, not number 12, number 11. I want to make it clear, Susan. And also one of the fastest growing business, and a great thought leader. And learning is earning, and that's why he's heading off to Adelaide, because, as they say, we sweat in training so that we don't bleed in battle. For those of you that want to take advantage of all the resources, including our prospecting scripts, dialogues, and templates, in the chat box, we've got the Realtair link for you to go there. And also that can also allow you the opportunity to experience and becoming a Realtair client. Have a safe flight. Matthew Everingham, I want to thank you very much for your time today. And to all our viewers and to those that are listening to this, don't forget the best radio station in Australia is On FM. October, November, February, March. There's a lot of action in real estate on FM, October, November, February, March. Let's get out there. Listings are coming in. Are you getting any? Signing off.